Hi, friends. We want to talk to you a little bit about the bombing of the Al-Hariq hospital in Gaza City last night at 6:59 p.m. Israel time. And there were many people that lost their lives, and we're very grieved about that. And we want to give you a little bit of response about the reactions and what really happened. Ari, you'll talk a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was meeting with some Arab Christian friends in Jerusalem here this morning who were really grieving. You know, it's actually a Christian hospital, and they explained that all over in the West Bank also and in Gaza, a lot of the most sort of humanitarian schools and hospitals are Christian. This one was started by the Anglican Church like 100 years ago and is now for a few decades owned and operated by the Baptists. And so it's just an extra hurt for our Christian friends. She also told us how, you know, I've seen this in the hospitals in Israel. When one person in an Arab family is sick, 10 people will go and camp out at the hospital to comfort them. And so there were a lot of people there, a lot of families. This is a place they in the year 2000, they did revival meetings there, this couple who we're with this morning. So it's especially painful, and with all the controversy about who was responsible and who's not, it's just a hard time for our Arab Christian brothers and sisters to stay on that fine line of trying, you know, to be neutral or trying to just pray for God's plan, you know, His love for everybody. It's not an easy time.
So there's a deep grieving for all of us about the loss of life, and particularly the confusion that this is causing for Arab Christians, and actually, to tell you the truth, anywhere around the whole world that people are hearing it. Well, I want to address a moment of the reporting of it, because this is a side of grieving, but there's another side in which we are so angry. Because what happened was, immediately when this happened, the spokesman for the IDF came on public television in Israel. He said this happened. It was obvious to everybody here that it wasn't us, because we don't bomb hospitals.
Or at least not on purpose.
Yeah, certainly not on purpose. But we wouldn't have made that kind of mistake at this timing, right before Biden's coming. But he said, look, I don't want to make an announcement. We're going to check all the facts. It took maybe 2 or 3 hours to check the facts. But by that time, all the news medias in the world had publicized that Israel had inhumanly bombed on purpose a hospital.
Not just the news outlets, condemnations from world leaders, Arab leaders around the Middle East blaming the United States along with Israel.
And it was all lies, purposeful lies. When they checked it, and I've seen footage of this, it's clear when you see the rocket blast, and I saw that even before they made the conclusion. The rocket blast was low, it was coming sideways. It wasn't something that would have come from an Israeli shot.
You mentioned the time, 6:59, because there were Israeli television stations that have cameras all the time on the Gaza skyline. And you can see one of them, hopefully you'll see it on your news, that it shows the directions of the rockets that were coming, and then the explosion at the hospital, and that there was nothing that came from above.
And it's
clear, if an Israeli warplane, it would have gone straight like this.
And it would have gone faster. So it's clear now that they've checked it all, that it was from the Islamic Jihad. It was a misfire. And actually they're saying a huge number, almost half of the shots that go out from the Islamic Jihad and Hamas miss their targets anyway and land in Gaza.
It's not very high-tech equipment, rockets that they're dealing with.
But when that hits something and you hit other explosives in the area,
it was a huge explosion, and this is something else that you have to realize. We don't know it 100%, but throughout all of the conflicts with Gaza and with Hamas purposely places their weapons, their rocket launchers in schools, in apartment buildings, in hospitals, or next to them. Someone I was reading recently said, in Israel, the IDF exists to protect its citizens. Hamas uses its military, or uses its citizens to protect itself.
Right. Yeah. In other words, the small rocket that went over there couldn't produce that kind of bomb that went off. The explosion was obviously it hit some sort of explosive materials.
It wasn't just oxygen tanks at the hospital.
But what happened is it's gone all over the world. Now, if you're going to check it honestly and objectively, it takes at least a few hours which we did.
Right.
But a few hours later, we had it already out, but it didn't make any difference. It was all over the world news condemning it. And what will happen is in the next round, instead of big headlines, Israel bombs on purpose a Gaza hospital, really, oh yeah, it turns out it wasn't really Israel, it was really Islamic Jihad. But what happens is the impact on people, the lie is making a bigger impact than the true facts that happen later. And it's almost as if the facts don't make any difference. It's fitting into an agenda, and it's creating all kinds of vocabulary and framing this and disqualification. And it is so maddening to see that happen.
We have a friend who, when he talks about this dynamic, he says, it's like someone accuses me and says, your sister's a prostitute. Your sister's a prostitute. They tell the whole neighborhood, right? And he said, I don't even have a sister. But everyone's already heard it, and they remember his sister's a prostitute, even though he doesn't even have a sister.
So the impression that's being made is stronger than what the truth and the facts are. And that, to me, is very demonic, and that's what I want us to pray about. I want to read a verse to you from Revelation chapter 12, which speaks of this deception. Verse 9 says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and called Satan, which deceives the whole world. Now think about that, deceiving the whole world. Most of world culture, most of world society is in deception. And this is an example of it. He was cast out. It goes on to, in verse 10 to say that he accused the brethren day and night. Day and night. There's accusation. And then you go on later on where it says a flood came out of his mouth. Verse 15. A flood. What kind of flood is it? A flood of information. False news going out. And I think this is a spiritual battle that I want us to pray for. It's much more than just fake news. And more than propaganda. It's a demonic deception to create accusation against Israel. It's the Jewish people, and the waves going out of that. The next wave out is going to be the Christian community around the world.
I think it was Hitler who said, if you tell a lie enough times, it becomes truth.
Right.